they got a big sewer project that they got to take on too. So you'll see a lot of these guys probably go ahead, you know. This is where you're at in sewer. Brandon and Harrisburg just recently up there, you know, we represent both of them. We represent all three of these actually. And so Lennox used to be the highest, now Brandon and Harrisburg with their improvements, they're getting bumped up. This is combined on the right side here. So you can see, I mean, you're not the highest, but I think you're in I feel like you're in a pretty good position where you're at, I guess. Pretty healthy position. We also pulled some data on you guys' mill levies. You can see kind of where you're at. This is organized by the city levy. You can see there. And I'm sure all you guys know you're the highest in Minnehaha County with the city levy, but when you start comparing yourself to some of the Canton communities out there, you know, you're lower than them. And this is your total overall levy. They're paying, once you add up the county levy, the school levy, city levy, this is kind of where you can see where you're set there.
And I go down next year, so.
Yeah. So that's all I got. Are there any questions?
That was a great presentation, Mitch. Appreciate it. We'll go into Craig.
I'll just make it kind of quick. We did some work on the Mickelson Bridge down there, fixed that guardrail and got that all welded up, back in shape. Hopefully we do, Assens does something with that bridge next year. It's culverts in it is really deteriorating, so well, if they don't do anything, we'll have to inspect it and see if we have to lower it or completely shut it down. So we'll be looking at that this summer and see what we got to do with it. Striping, we've been trying to get freed up to full day to get the striping done. It just seems like every day something comes up, so we haven't had a chance to do it. Hoping this week we'll get a chance to get out there, get that finished up or get started on Main and done. I always work on some trucks, got some salt sand. We got a little bit of budget money left from this year to haul some more salt sand. We do have some on reserve, so we're in good shape through the rest of the year anyway until next winter. Then we'll continue hauling and stuff like that, get it hauled in for winter. Still got some sidewalk to do. Along sidewalks is Teresa and myself be going around next week, maybe.
Put back a week. Hopefully before the snow flies, we'll be
to do some inspections, yeah. And that's all due to insurance and stuff like that, so take care of that. Water and sewer metro construction, like we talked about earlier, they got that wrapped up, or just about wrapped up. They should be just about done this week with it, except for the seeding and that and grading. That really looks good. They've been doing a really good job for us. Red Feed, we did get the water and sewer brought into that park we just annexed. The only thing we have left to do is just install a meter, and that's just a matter of coordinating with the owner of the property to get that put in and see if he wants the water out this time. Park and pool, we're going to winterize the one bathroom by the skate park. I don't know if they've got a chance to do it today, but if not, this next couple of days we'll get that one done. And then as soon as the weather starts to turn, we'll be winterizing the rest of them. We're getting to that point now where the kids are starting to do a little more vandalism with them, so the sooner we can shut them down, the sooner we will. I'd like to keep them open as long as we can, just for the general public. I mean, you're always going to have some vandalism, it's just better. It's always nice to shut them down, so. Broadleaf, we sprayed all the parts of Broadleaf. Sports complex, all it's been sprayed and done. Everything's, the sports complex grass is really looking good out there, so that's good. They did do a little touch up on some areas. We have a couple rocks that were sticking up a little bit. We got them dug out and some dirt thrown in there, seed thrown in there, so everything should be good for next spring. A little trimming to do yet, and we should be ready for winter, so that's what I got.
Any questions for Craig?
What's that bridge? 3 tons?
5.
That's a 5-ton bridge.
Yeah. It's kind of a pain to maintain.
Who did they put that classification on when it got inspected?
When we got turned over to us from the township, they didn't have any inspections for quite a while on it because according to the county, it wasn't a bridge, it was a culvert, because their inspector said it was 19 foot 6 inches and has to be 20 feet or larger to be considered a bridge. Well, when we had our inspection done on it 2 years ago, it was classified as a bridge, and they recommended 5 ton on it. And I think it's going to be
The
less than that.
inspectors recommended that?
Yep.
Who inspected it? A private company?
Bros did, yeah. An outside engineering firm. I have a feeling when it gets inspected this next time, it'll be
Well, I know that, how long is the inspection good for?
2 years, is what they recommend, I think it's right, 2 years.
Because I know if you go over it and you're overweight and you go through it, that's your problem.
Yep.
But if you go through and you're underweight, I assume that's our problem.
But it's gonna be inspected. We got budget money for this year for it coming up
Yeah.
for 2 year, and I, like I said, then,
But I mean, theoretically though, we could post anything we want.
we can, yeah.
So why don't we do that? Why don't,
If we have to get our skid steer across,
your skid steer doesn't weigh 10,000
I
pounds.
bet you it's close. I think it's right around that 4-ton, 45 something.
loader?
Yeah. You ought to try to maintain that thing. I have to back a half a mile with a maintainer to get down that
That Nicholson Road project we had, and that estimate includes culverts up here, and culverts go down. So if we do that project, that'll,
I would love to shut that road down right now.
You guys are just full of great names too.
Okay, if you join?
I'll answer the Tony.
All right,
We'll see what that's next summer. It depends on if Aspen's gonna do something, then we ain't gonna waste the money having it inspected, we'll just get it taken over. So,
and for that, Aspen, when are they gonna, were they planning to come to us in January, February? Do you know, have any got a feeling for?
I think it sounded like this fall they were gonna work on their, plan, kind of present the, what the plan's gonna be. They'll come and present it before, our engineers and us, their concept plan, and yeah, see what they'll be asking for or not,
Okay.
and then we'll come to the council, yeah.
Anything else for Craig? Thank you, Craig. Darren?
Yeah, my report, I just included the general fund balance as of the end of September for you and where we're sitting with sales tax revenue as of September compared to last year. The committee fund balances, gave you those. I'll be processing the council's semi-annual payroll on Friday the 30th. So your deposits will be in your account on Monday the 2nd. I've included the attendance chart if you want to glance over it and make sure I have all your meetings appropriately marked. If there's any corrections, just let me know. And the calendar of events for October and what I know for November.
Could you add, unless it's going to be contingent on Governor Dugard, annual meeting for the Hartford Chamber of Commerce. Everyone in this room is invited. November 19th, 6 p.m. at Embers.
And that's all I have.
Any questions for Karen? Thank you, Karen. Teresa?
Okay, just a few updates that weren't on the agenda. With the chamber and economic development position, I'm continuing to adjust the day-to-day calls, messages, inquiries that come through the office here. Once again, still checking his emails, phone messages, helping anybody that has any questions, like I said, that come in day-to-day. Still attending the chamber meetings and HABC meetings. Both groups have been very good to work with during this transition. We've already discussed, where the vandal marked lots are sitting that have kind of just come to a head here the last few days. I've had a couple people inquire about different land around the area. I have a couple projects that they're looking at right now, just seeing what sites we have available and the cost of those. So I've been working with them. I've kind of listed, just so the council knows, some upcoming meetings in relation to that. There's a housing meeting coming up this Thursday. Makita has their monthly meeting, they meet every month, that's coming up on the 22nd. Plus Makita will have an annual meeting on November 5th. HADC is going to be sponsoring a developers meeting, and we're going to be inviting basically a lot of the local developers, retailers, marketing groups or whatnot, key players, contractors, people that have land, hoping to get them all together and kind of a meeting, and they try to do this every year to see what everybody's thinking as far as development, what they need from us, the city, what we can do for them. So that's going to be on November 12th, and then Scott just told you about the chamber annual meeting. That's going to be on November 19th. Yeah, he stole my thunder there. So So just for your reference, and council's invited to any of those upcoming meetings, just let me know if you need time or if you have any more questions about them.
The HEDC meeting was on the 12th, where at Costello, right?
The HADC developer meeting is gonna be at the Costello's building there, that's in between their apartment buildings, so it'll be there on November 12th, 6 o'clock, I believe, correct?
Was it 6, black, Terry?
Yeah, 6 o'clock, so.
Okay.
Want to give some recognition to Craig. It came to my attention that at the South Dakota Water and Wastewater Association conference, he got a couple awards. Didn't say anything about him to us, but
He hid the plaques in his office on his desk.
are they probably
not
buried on his
hid.
desk? He received 2 awards though. The Price Reese Award is for having 20 years in this industry, and then the Singer, I guess is that what's called? Singer Beast Award, and that's for 30 years in the industry. So
Congratulations to
I
Craig.
don't know, yeah. I don't know how old that puts him, but
That's basically what it is, a longevity.
It's a longevity award.
we got a lot of knowledge and experience here, so good for him. Craig already told you on the Mathis property, we've got the water and sewer installed there. The bike trail, we kind of gave an update earlier on that the state and it sounds like Federal Highway Authority are good with the new plan, so we will move forward with that. The engineers will start working on the plan and work with the state, and then I'll have Larry start drafting an agreement between the city and school for both entities to look at and approve and start going on that end. And then the only other couple items, we touched base on this, during the CIP. There's just a couple of things to start thinking about for the future here. We do have an ordinance in place to do a street assessment. So anytime we do a street, where we've got to tear out the street and we do one, or if we have a guy on the street and putting a new street in, we have an ordinance in place that we can assess the property owners along that street $80 a linear foot. The way our ordinance reads, that every year we'll review that, whether you keep that amount at the $80 or change it more or less or whatever, that's up to the council. So we'll be reviewing that ordinance in December, so start thinking about that. If you're good with that, if you have any questions, let me know, but that'll be on agenda coming up.
Let me stop here.
Yep.
I thought that $80 was if somebody came in with a petition to do a street.
It doesn't say they have to have a petition,
If-
it just
if-
allows us to.
But I thought if the city initiated a street project, then whatever that number was is what it was. It's not so-called $80. I mean, if you divide it by the front footage and it's $97.50, then it's $97.50. I thought that $80 was if they came in and said, I want my street done, it's $80 a foot for everybody.
The way the ordinance reads, it's.
49, 50 up to 80.
Yeah, but the reason it was started though was to entice people to petition their streets to get done. So when did it change from being actually a lower number to entice people to do it and morph into, if the city does a project, this is what you're gonna get charged?
Or what you can get charged. It doesn't say that we have to assess it against those property owners. It's just a mechanism in place that if we want to assess the property owners, we can. It doesn't say it has to be done.
All those years we were building streets, it was, it had that idea behind it. It was a lowered rate, because the rate was like $60, $70 a foot was the actual cost of building those streets, maybe more than that.
And the $49 was to entice
It
people.
was to entice people to come in and sign a petition.
Yep.
I don't know that you ran into a situation where you forced a project on someone, and I don't know what you would have done in that situation. Maybe that was the intention.
We kind of enforced some because they jumped on, so their footages would make it along some other properties.
What you said is if you come sign this petition, you'll get locked in at that rate. We don't know necessarily when we're gonna get there, but you're locked in at that rate. And you got so many people coming in and doing that. I don't know if you had to force it.
Mark, do you want that copy of that put in the next packet? Review?
Well, I'm just curious because,
We're going to review that ordinance, but in the ordinance, it doesn't address petitions. It just says if the city wants to assess a property owner for new street construction, we can assess it up to $80.
we can only assess up to $80?
Well, I don't know if it says up to, or we can assess it $80 per linear foot.
Cause we
See,
didn't
I'm
change the word
confused, because I
to
don't think that's how it initially started.
I think it is, because the only thing we changed from the initial ordinance when we bumped it up was the amount.
Well, put that in, I mean, if we're gonna review it, that's fine, but, cause when they did my street, I wasn't locked in. There was no just some arbitrary number that 6 people came up with. It was just whatever the cost was divided by the footage.
Well,
The first few they did
Cap-
that
Yeah,
way.
when we
yeah,
capped it at 49.50.
I had Richard Brower do my street there on Sixth, and it was, you know, he came to us and wanted to do it, and we said, no, we're gonna, the landowners were like, no, we're gonna have the city go ahead and assess it and get it done, so it's bonded and everything, but Brower was gonna try to just put it in it and just break it up by per foot.
The first few ones they did, it was like you're saying, and that's that. And they got what happened was is year to year the price would fluctuate so much. Some people would be paying $70 a foot one year, and the next people would be paying $90 a foot the next year. Just difference in material and construction costs might be a difference in the type of project. So then the council at that time said, you know, let's just get something that's a flat rate for everybody.
So when we review this, we don't need to review it. See, because if I were to review it now, I would be looking at a number that would give somebody an incentive to do it. But we need to be looking at it as what the actual costs are gonna be.
That's what I'll
Next
help you
year.
with. I'll help you with this.
Yeah, cause that's when we did bump it up a couple years, I mean, that's, you know, now the cost is 200, 250, last
That's
number
what
you
running
gave me
Yeah.
would be a foot, so I mean, the cost has
How much?
significantly increased. 200,
That's
250.
oh, so you have to divide that in half.
Yeah,
So it's just
100%,
like
125%.
Yeah, well, that's a, yeah, the whole street, but,
Because I always looked at it as an incentive.
That's what originally came out was an incentive to
which
use the
at
streets down.
$80 would still be an
So
incentive.
now-
even at versus-
So now it's just turned into a number that if we do your street, this is what you're gonna be assessed. This calendar year.
Could be assessed.
Could be
Could be
assessed, if you
I
choose to
didn't-
implement it, yeah, it doesn't say you have to.
And like you said, it's probably more for the developers now, because they would come through and say, well, I'm gonna pay that money up front now and not have to worry about paying more. That's when we jumped it up to the 80 a couple years, or a year
Yeah.
ago.
Like Kelly Point
Because
has
they were
money in the
wide
bank at the
49.
$49.50 a foot that's sitting there, so we can't assess them when we do Mickelson 80, they already got that
Yeah.
locked in at
Cause they
$49.50.
bought in
Yep.
cheap.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was just stopping anybody else from buying it cheap and bumped it up some, and so.
Yeah. But yeah, in November, I'll have the ordinance in there, you can review and talk about it some more. And then, I also, like, we kinda touched on too, you know, think about, you know, maintenance fee possibly, you know, whether we wanna implement something. I'll keep gathering some information from other towns that have done it. You know, there are different ways you can do it. It's like the assessment fee, so much a linear foot for your front footage, or per lot, or, you know, like I said, there's different ways you can.
And you can give a break for,
Yeah.
you can figure out a way to give a break for people with corner lots.
The couple towns that have, replied, they said on corner lots, all they do is assess the part of the street that's addressed off of. So it's only one side
Okay,
is what
very good.
theirs read, so, you know, which would make sense. You hate to clobber corner lot twice.
See,
Do you know how many miles of streets we got in town, Mitch? Is that in your computer?
I don't know, I think you do.
I've got it wrote down, or figured
Get an
out.
idea next time we talk
How many
about
miles, yeah.
how much this would
But
generate.
like we were kind of discussing, and I've got my own opinion about that, is I think we need to assess, and Teresa, like Teresa said, is per lot or something like that, or per household or something like that, because we're getting so many apartments. Those people aren't gonna pay anything, and, you know, they got their small little frontage outside, and there's, you know, 5, 6, or 8 plexes in that area. They're not gonna pay what's the same thing that somebody else has to pay in town. Everybody's using the streets, everybody should pay for them.
So what do you suggest if it's 2 different rates, one for single-family residence and one for
That's
multifamily?
something they'd have to work, but I just think that I think the front footage isn't fair across the board for everybody in town. I think it should be
Yeah.
something fair, because everybody uses them.
Like that, or just per parcel, per lot, or however you wanna do it.
So let's just get some more information from other towns, and we'll talk about it
Yep,
next meeting.
that's, I'll get some more information,
It's not a
something
big
we
hurry,
can talk,
but
yep, we can talk about that in the future. And then in their packet is, Paul Clark's code enforcement report for you. One thing that did come up just this afternoon is I had a lady who is a part of the board for the Hartford Cemetery, the one along Highway 38. She came in today and she says that, their board is thinking about planting some trees basically between the cemetery, it'd be on their property, but that would line the cemetery and the bike path going between, you know, the cemetery and bike path. And they kind of want to use it as a fundraiser to maybe have people start raising money, and donate trees or whatever. She just wanted me to ask, you can't take any action or whatever, how the council would feel, maybe wondering if the city would donate a couple trees toward that. The trees would be about, she thought, $150 to $175, depending what type they put in there. But I guess I just getting the feel from the council if this is something you would entertain or not, or. I said we
That's
can't
not,
take any
is that in
action.
city limits? It's not.
No, it's not city limits, but, I mean, it'd be a longer bike path, I mean, it would look nice, rather than, but, you know, I know some.
I don't see room. They should really plant some trees.
There might not be room for them either. I think their fence is right on their property line, and that means they'd be in the DOT and
They won't let
you'd
it
have to
fly.
go through.
So they wanna put them on the outside of the fence.
And I think it'd still be on DOT property, which is gonna happen.
So they may not have room, she just is starting to think about this, and I
Sounds like an Eagle Scout project.
think, yeah, that would be a good thing for it, yeah, something like that, so. Okay, just wanted to touch on that. And I guess the last thing I do have it on the agenda is that, this week, the Planners Conference, South Dakota Planners Association, puts on a conference every year. We, encourage the Planning and Zoning Board to go through a lot of different stuff, topics on that. Bob Bender is gonna go to both days this year. I haven't got confirmation from anybody else on the board. I would like to go just Wednesday, it's Wednesday and Thursday next week. I put the agenda in there, I think Wednesday sounds like something that might be beneficial, Thursday not so much, so wondering if I can get permission to go to that on Wednesday.
I would move to allow Tracy to go to the South Dakota Planners Association meeting on Wednesday.
Second.
Motion by Doyle, second by Brad. Discussion? We'll vote. Mark? Scott?
Yes.
Doyle?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have.
Can I go back to Mitch real quick before we move on?
Sure.
Can you give me a number for 2020 without that grant in the sewer project?
Yeah. Yeah, like that spreadsheet that we had.
Cause you were showing 515,000, I think.
Yeah, I mean, all it means is if you don't get that grant, you're gonna be borrowing more money, so it won't.
So that number won't change, it's just
It's not really, it just means that you're affecting your debt limit, is what it really does.
Not so much a reason.
Depending, I mean, cause you can put, we still had like $500,000 in cash being paid on that project too. So, you can, the more money.
You got this down for $1 million cash,
Yep.
$2 million grant, and $2 million in loan. And I think that plan is drastically gonna change if you have $4 million in loans with $1 million cash.
Yep, you'll be loaning more money if you don't get that grant. You have to loan whatever they do.
So you're gonna bond twice as much, but the balance in the sewer fund's not gonna change?
It doesn't have to, I mean, we could.
Because they're not using sewer funds to pay for it.
Yeah,
It's staying consistent.
Well, you got the debt service coming out of the sewer fund though.
I mean, the other option is to raise your rates on sewer and gain more cash now to pay more of it now. Or at that,
that's just,
that'd be other.
it's 5 years away, but I hate to bank on a $2 million grant in 5 years. Cause we could sit on our thumbs for 5 years and not get that grant. That's coming from the Fed or the state?
Be state revolving fund.
Well, we can look at, budget time allotting stuff for that too, right?
Well, and what you really need to do for that project is you plan early for that project. So, I mean, that's why we had that $1 million in 2 years.
Yeah, but I just soon plan like we're not getting a $2 million grant instead of planning like we are. Cause if we plan like we're not gonna get it, and we do get it, then the plan just gets $2 million better.
Yeah.
But
Like I said, if you don't get it, it's gonna just mean you're gonna have to have a higher loan, which probably have to go lower than people, you have to go to your 10%.
okay, so let's say you go to an election and it gets turned down.
if it's an emergency situation, you can do it without that.
You're gonna let a sewer project turn into an emergency situation?
Well, I'm just saying,
How do
it's
you,
either gonna,
how do you
if
float
we
that?
need sewer,
But you don't need it if all that's happening is growth is being held back. It's not an emergency to grow.
If you'd start running out of compliance.
I'm just
stuff
saying,
like
if you're
that,
running- yeah,
they'd
yeah.
threaten you with fines and stuff like that,
Right.
and it would be considered an emergency then.
We'll
And that's
go-
usually when you get your grants, is when you're out of compliance.
yeah, usually that's when they'll give you more money.
By the time we get to that project, it'll probably be a $7 million project.
Exactly, yeah.
Can we pay now and lock it in?
Put it in escrow, yeah.
I don't have anything for executive session.
I move to adjourn.
Motion by Doyle.
Second. Can I just make, if anybody's getting any calls on the graveyard, it's at 504 North Oaks, Christ Lutheran Church is putting on their house.
Right. So motion by Doyle, second by Ryan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Not so far.
How come the top 4 contenders are all your projects?
A lot of stuff to say.
Well, I figured I was the same
Here was the joke. I was working on.
You mentioned it.
No, I didn't have it on the current.
You want a discussion next week?
Yeah, you should.
So we can keep this, so we keep it big.
And I
And after that,
no.
Your card.
But yeah, it keeps it in the.
you can't go, you're too scared.
I mean, Sioux Falls right now.
That project.
Did you go? The only thing that's gonna really change with that? Change some stuff. Working with them, trying to so it's 90. And then the other thing is they're gonna do is if they can afford to do it, they're gonna make it more of a 65 site. They're not gonna change the speed. This time, I don't want the vision.
Her school season started. She took her laptop back.